Hello and welcome to the third session of the Art of Recruitment 2025. My name's Luke Davis, my pronouns are he, him, and this is our monthly webinar series where we bring you practical insights from top talent leaders around the world. Before we dive in, a quick word about Matcha. We're a global embedded RPO company supporting scale-ups and enterprises like Action, Miro, Booking.com and Echo with dedicated recruitment and sourcing teams. If you're growing and need hiring support, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to explore how we can help. Now, on to today's guest. I'm super excited to welcome Suayb Hasturk from Textmetrics, who will dive into how recruiters can use AI to write job descriptions and other content in a more inclusive, unbiased way, a topic that's very, very close to my heart. Suayb, welcome.
Thank you, Luke. So how do we kick this off usually? Shall I introduce myself in a minute and
Be awesome, yeah. If you don't mind saying hi, thank you so much for giving up your time this afternoon. I'm super excited to dive into a bit more about your product and what you want to share today on a really, really important topic. So yeah, please, by all means, the floor's yours.
Great, thank you for the stage. So welcome everyone. Thank you for your attention. My name is Suayb. I live in the Netherlands. I work for Textmetrics. Textmetrics is a software company based in the Netherlands, and we focus on text optimization. So we, the core of Textmetrics is really embedding your guidelines, your writing guidelines into the software so that it gives feedbacks based on what it really is important to how you want to communicate. And a few recurring topics, of which one is diversity and inclusion, has gathered the attention lately. So I would like to show you a few slides, if I may. Okay. So if all is correct, you can see my screen now. Let me just dig into the presentation. So I've introduced myself. Let me go to the next slide, and let's just start off with a little fact. So about 3 out of 4 job ads contain subtle biased language that can discourage diverse candidates from applying. So what does that really mean? It means that unwillingly, when you write a text, whether it's a job ad or a different piece of text, you sprinkle in there certain words that have a biased nature. So that is, like I said, it's completely unwilling, but it happens so that people are discouraged to apply for a job. So to give an example, we see that some male writers tend to use overly male or masculine words in job ads, so that it on a subconscious level appeals less to the female writer, or you use certain words that exclude certain religious groups or different ethnicities. Anyway, these biases, they make that you reach a smaller group than you would initially would like to reach. So other typical challenges in job descriptions. This is what our experiences are with working with many recruitment firms, like large recruitment firms. To give an example, international of a customer is Randstad. They work with our solution. And what we in general see that a very important factor of job descriptions is the overall reading level. So what we all try to do in European standards is to write these job ads on a B1 English or native language. However, it's sometimes difficult to really grasp the idea of what B1 really is. So what happens that, except for besides from the choice of words, which can be too difficult, we see that sentences are formulated in maybe a little bit too long, or they contain a very passive tone of voice, or they use very formal and old-fashioned language. Like I said, all unwillingly. In general, if you read through the vacancy, you would say, hey, I understand this. This is a very easy to understand language. However, this is if you imagine someone who is applying for a job, and they read through many different vacancies, and they come across yours. You want it to be as easy as possible for them to read through. It shouldn't contain too many bullet points. It shouldn't contain too long language, too long sentences. If it does all these things, the chances of them not fully reading or going fully through your vacancy, it increases. Another challenge that we find a lot is a lack of accessibility. So the reading level is a major part of the accessibility. However, there are certain extra elements, just like the contrast between the colors of the letters. I mean, usually it's black and white, but some companies they like to be a bit playful with these colors, but that can have influence on your accessibility. But also the way certain links are added, and can everybody certain with, let's say, a visual disadvantage really read and understand your vacancy? So again, do you exclude anyone by making it inaccessible for them? And then the diversity and inclusion part, like I said, with the subtle biases that you would, as a in general, wouldn't notice, but that they are there. Another one, which is, I'm not going to be hanging on to this one too long because it's a very obvious one. Everyone wants their vacancies to be found, and everyone wants their SEO quality to be high. However, if you have many recruiters who are very good at recruiting and having interactions with the potential hires, they're not always SEO experts. So how do you make sure that the text they write are always up to maximum SEO qualities? And lastly, and this is one, especially with the emerging AI generated vacancies, you lose you lose authenticity. And that's also because you have many different writers. They have all a different way of writing their vacancies, but also a different level of knowledge of how to prompt properly with using generative AI. So what happens is that everybody uses maybe a different model, even though if they use the same model, AI is inconsistent. AI gives a different answer in the morning than in the afternoon, and it doesn't always understand. It doesn't have the capacity yet to really understand your tone of voice. I mean, you want to ensure a certain branding. You want to ensure, you want certain, your vacancies to be associated with your company. And that becomes more of an issue if you keep using AI without having any control over it. So that is an immediate bridge to the next slide. So what we see is, like I said, an emerging increase in the use of generative AI tools. However, we keep in mind that AI, it mimics human behavior. And like we just said, humans are biased. So just to give an example, if I say to you, imagine a CEO sitting behind his desk. How many of you imagined immediately, first thing comes to mind, a white male, ages of 50, between 60? And if I say, imagine a nurse standing in a hallway, who imagined a female about the ages between 20 25? I mean, it's the same with ChatGPT. It's the same with a generative AI. These biases are very subtle, and they're just in our it just how our system works. But you want to exclude those biases, willingly or unwillingly, from your vacancies, because you exclude a certain group of people which you do not want to exclude. Um, Besides that, like I said, there's a certain company-specific context. AI isn't capable of really understanding your tone of voice, really understanding your branding. Is there a certain jargon you want to avoid or add, or is there a certain way you want to have your vacancies in layout? Or, I mean, you can try to teach it, but it always will be inconsistent. Lastly, you need governance. So there are certain rules and regulations for the diversity and inclusion, but also for the accessibility, but also for the AI Act. There are many laws and regulations which you cannot just use AI and trust it will be okay. You need to really validate and really cross-check if everything that you're going to post online is really compliant. So how to get to consistent communication? Let's start with defining your target audience. So decide for yourself who you really want to reach. So let's say this should actually be audiences plural, because when you write vacancies, it's usually for different groups of people. So you look at the demographics, at the geographics, at the sector. Which is it, a finance person that you're looking for? Is it a logistics person or a salesperson? Once you have these in mind, you need to understand these people. You need to understand, okay, how does a financial person really wants to be addressed? Is it a formal language that you want to apply, or is it an informal language? What mediums are they sitting on? So what that's for later on, if you're going to decide on a vacancy, is it going to be a social media vacancy, or if it's going to be a LinkedIn post, or what medium does your demographic use? And what are the accessibility needs? Is your target audience, is their education a bit lower maybe, so you need to write in maybe a simpler language? These are things you really need to understand before you go after them. Then you need to define your goals. So what is it really that you wish to achieve? Is it a certain group of people that you would like to add to your employee account to get a more diverse uh, 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 working force? Or is it more applicants or more hires? Really understand what you would like to achieve with this group of people. And lastly, choose your strategy. So based on all the before, you need to decide on a tone of voice. What is really the tone of voice I would like to use in all of our vacancies? And what is the message we would like to convey? And this is, uh, I tell it in a short way, but this is a process. You really need to understand, how can I make my vacancies authentic and really be standing out from the competitors? Then, but how to ensure consistent quality? I mean, we can write all of this, we can decide on many different strategies, but how to make sure that all these different recruiters and all these different vacancy writers communicate in the same way and write in the same manner? Well, that's where we come in. So let me dig into our solution for a minute. Like I said, Textmetrics, it really reads your strategy, so the step 4 in the previous slide, and it embeds it into the software. And it gives feedback based on the choices you've made in the beginning. So I took an example. This is a fictional company. However, the vacancy is actually real. I did this I did a demo for this company once, and I thought this was a good example to use this time. Um, so this is our web tool. It's also available in as a Chrome extension or wherever you write, actually. So if you have a certain ATS, you can just use the right part is actually where our magic happens. Um, we use we have we have our own interface for AI. However, keep in mind, this is not per se our magic. This is just an accessibility issue. So we provide a prompting generative AI on the right side. However, that's for quick access only. On the other hand, we have the AI assistant. So if you would like to have a quick change, let's say we select this sentence here, you can just say, hey, simplify or make shorter or write informal. You can just do these quick prompts and you can add it in the text. Yeah, it's nice to have, but it's not per se our product. Our product really comes into this segment. So it really analyzes the text based on certain things. Let's start with the SEO part. So if I select SEO, you can see all the feedback it gives based on the findability of your vacancy. So you can just split that with the content. So it gives feedback like add at least 51 characters to a page description. So if I see that there's no page description here, I can just generate one with the AI assistant. It thinks, replaces, and there it is. So this is just a tool where it can add and help a bit, but it's not per se. Then add one word in your titles. Use at least 3 words. See, this is one too few. Um, there it is. There's one more. So the findability goes up immediately. So this feedback, if you just, here's one, add some headers. You haven't used tags. Add your keyword a few more times in the beginning, at the end, and just going through all this feedback will make it so that all the vacancies that are written by any recruitment recruiter is on a high level of findability. So this could be very useful. Let me dig into the content. There's where what's really interesting. So let's start with readability. So you see a lot of feedback based on the readability of this vacancy. This is not an easy vacancy to read. Let's start with the number of too many difficult words. And remember, just telling the person who wrote this vacancy, and their feedback was, yeah, but the people we're trying to hire are highly educated. Yes, that might be true, but it's like I said, everybody understands this vacancy. However, you want to be, we want it to be as less of an effort for them to read through your vacancy as possible. So you have words like onboarding. Okay, that's okay. Deliverables, forecasting, escalation, seamless. I had a few more which I thought, acumen, aligning. So what can we do with these words? If I select the light bulb here, it immediately goes to our own language processing, and it immediately, okay, so that's not a good example. Best practices, adhere. Let's go that one. Stick to best practices, and now it becomes easier to read. And it's the overall that counts. So some are out of context, some are within a certain context that you just want to exclude. Like I said, we make it custom made so that it doesn't give the feedback of certain words. But yeah, I mean, collate down, I don't even know what this means, and I'm not a native speaker, okay, but I think my English is really proper. So assemble or gather and own all project documentation. There you go. That's an easier example. On to the next one. Passive voice. So you really want to use an active voice, and it says are delivered, is carried, is reflected, is updated. Your role will be critical in ensuring that all products are delivered. No, you will deliver all the, so right. So it's a different tone of voice, and it makes it more difficult to understand unnecessarily. And I mean, this is something that everybody does, and it's not something bad per se, but it's just to help to make the text more understandable. Some sentences are too long. Well, that's very easy. You just select the AI assistant, and it provides a shorter replacement, or it splits the sentence or whatever. So that's the readability part. Let's go to the credibility. It has too many adjectives. So it says, hey, consider removing 17 adjectives. So what happens is that you have sentences like, we are a beautifully perfect, amazing company. Like, if you do that, what happens is that you lose credibility, and you get maybe too full of yourself. You want to avoid that. You want to have a maximum of 12%. So here it just states all of the adjectives, and you can select which one you want to delete or change up a little, up to you. This is the layout. It says too many text, too many words, also makes it difficult to read. Do you really want to use exclamation mark? This is maybe a tone of voice kind of issue. Many lists with more than 6 items. So just me personally, if I read a vacancy, I read the first 4 bullets max, and then I'm like, okay, I have these 4 things. The rest will also be okay. So I don't read them all. So it just makes sure that you don't have too many. Too many lists, and like I said, more than 6 words. This is a very interesting one, and I think, Luke, you're going to like this one the most. This is the gender inclusion module. And here it looks at a real in-depth, it's how to say, it's a deeper understanding of masculinity or femininity in words. So what we did is, well, not per se we, what happened is that they interviewed a large group of women and men, and they asked them with which words they associate themselves more. And what we saw that certain words are, well, more masculine than other words, and other words are more feminine than other words. So what we did, just give a use case before I dig into it, is that we helped Arcadis, a dominantly masculine organization, to hire 10% more females. And that's just because we helped them just get a more female tone of voice to it than a male tone of voice. So just gonna example. So in charge for the successful strategic adjectives again, large, complex, and high. Well, let's just select one, strategic. Does it have a female alternative? It does. So key delivery of large scale, well, there you go, successful, winning. I mean, it should be in context. Let's just select a different one. Wide, spacious, not per se, collaboratively together. Way of working together with the technical team makes it also readable, more readable than collaboratively. Anyway, so if you change according to this one, it should be 8 masculine removing or 8 feminine adding. So if you do 8, then it should be a neutral tone of voice. If you really want to address more to the female market, then you should do a little bit more. So that's a very interesting one. I really like this module. Then you have the other elements. So like I said, no direct age discrimination in the text found. So that's good. It says here's, hey, you don't have a diversity statement in your text. Maybe you should add that. Going to the tone of voice, we've got some sport terms, which are terms. I mean, as a recruiter, you should be allergic to them. It's like a dynamic team. This is a dynamic team. What does that really mean, right? Or it's an electric environment or something like that. So, I mean, you need to avoid those. And like I said, this is all custom makeable, so that it really communicates your tone of voice. Here has a bit old-fashioned words. So company apparel. Here, clothing is a better alternative. Apparel is a bit, understand? Old-fashioned words, many old-fashioned words, like, or not that many. Okay, well, it's a few. So assist, help. I mean, it's more modern, it's more fitting. Abbreviations are best avoided. So ASAP should be as soon as possible. And AG should be, for example, and it just gives that example immediately, so you can just select any changes to that. And the recruitment model, lastly, and this is just in collaboration with one of our partners, is a list of elements which work in an interactive manner to applicants. So in that way, by applying most of the feedback, you can analyze again, and you see that the content score has increased, and yeah, your chances of reaching your goals is increased as well. So just a quick recap. What will you gain from Textmetrics? So you will reach a larger audience thanks to more inclusive job ads, but also the readability, also the accessibility. Something that we didn't really touch is the, oh, here it is, the legal risk. I mean, you make sure that the unequal treatment is one thing, but also making sure that you use AI in a responsible manner, making sure that you are compliant with the EAA, the Accessibility Act, shorter time to hire. So Aztecs immediately follow your guidelines. So what happens is that we've seen a few of our running customers that they said that the applicants they get now that they write vacancies with Textmetrics, they really apply to the people that they want to attract. So the conversion from applicant to new hire increases as well. And ensure transparency with a full audit trail. So you can see really, this is again for the, I mean, this is again for the reduced legal risk. You can really have an audit trail like, okay, this is the way I've used AI and we're responsible with that. Yeah, so that was my final slide, and I think we can head to the questions, I guess.
Suayb, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. And I was having so many flashbacks when you were going through all the different features that do different things. And I guess as someone who I first started recruiting back in the year 2000, so writing job adverts was really an art form. And if I'm being honest, it probably took me maybe 8, 9, 10 years of working in recruitment to get to a level where I could probably think about all the different things, how to be inclusive, the wording, the language, getting away from using sports terminology. As a sports person, that was something that I found really difficult. So it was awesome to see that. we've got a few questions that have come through. Before I go to the ones that have come in from people on the session, I've got one probably for myself, and this probably comes a bit Suayb, from the work I did with Diversifying, which was a job board and a consultancy, and we spoke a lot about, and we knew this from the candidates we were speaking to, how people would self-reject if they were reading adverts that didn't talk to them in the right way. Is that something that you've kind of considered as an organization around, I suppose, how to get adverts that really sing to the individual and the different audiences?
Yeah, so like I said, we try to really embed your tone of voice, and I hope this answers your question. If not, ask again. But we really try to embed your tone of voice into the vacancy. And like I said, it's really important to write text that appeal to the one that you would actually like to hire. So to give an example, a cultural example. I live in the Netherlands, but if I would like to hire someone from Belgium, for instance, it's very close by. We speak the same language. However, there are so many nuances in how you should appeal to someone like that, that you should really take that into consideration. And those are very subtle changes, just like a formal tone of voice or an informal tone of voice. It's just one example. Or high context or low context communication. Those are so many nuances that you really want to take into consideration so that you get the right applicants from the right target audience. Does that answer your question, or
it does? It does absolutely answer the question. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a question here that's come through around hiring managers, and is it a tool that also gets used outside of talent acquisition?
Absolutely, yeah. So talent acquisition is we've got many customers in that section, so we have a lot of experience, and we have a few additional modules for recruitment department. But that's definitely not where it ends. We work a lot with government agencies of governance as well, who wish to communicate in an understandable and accessible manner with their civilians or with one another. What we see is that the governments tend to overcomplicate communication. But they also value, they have entire communication departments. They work on their, we call it schrijfwijzer in the Netherlands, which is a statement of communication letter. So a statement of how one in a certain municipality should communicate with one another. And these are all elements that we embed into the software and make sure that all the workers in an agency, in a municipality or a government, they communicate in the same manner. And it could be legal documents, that could be emails, that could be letters to citizens, that could be emails to one another, could be anything, but just to make it understandable and accessible.
No, great, thank you, and thank you for sharing that. And I've got a question here to do with if what advice you could give to an organization that's probably never looked at the tone of voice for their adverts. How should they get started, or how could they get started?
So I doubt this is maybe a difficult one, because honestly, we are not the expert in how you should do your communication. Just let me get that straight first. We know a few things because of our experience with working companies, but if you've never really looked into your tone of voice and how am I going to be branding myself as an employer or as a company, then I suggest maybe go to an expert who can really help you in that sense. But I really doubt that you've never really looked into that, because I think that everyone who writes vacancies, or every company who writes vacancies, has their preferences, right? I mean, if you write a vacancy, your colleague or your manager probably said, we write in a more informal tone. So rather than dear, use a more informal tone of voice, or it's probably already there. So it's really important to figure that out with maybe your strategic team.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I often I've seen people that can almost get stuck with fear. And actually, I really like the way you framed that, which was actually you probably have got that already, either in the tone of voice on your careers site or how you're describing yourself as an organization and not using too many adjectives. So I guess even if you've got some basic rules, they could provide your guidelines as a starting point, didn't they? Yeah, absolutely. Great, thank you. And last question I think we've got through is can Textmetrics also handle other languages other than English?
Yes, many, many more. Not sure how many exactly, but I think the entirety of Europe is covered, and I think a few Asian languages as well. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Awesome. Great to hear. Well, look, that was fantastic, Suayb. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and thank you to everyone for joining us. If anyone wants to reach out to you or get in touch with Textmetrics, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can send an email to either team@textmetrics.com, or just visit our website, and we've got a book some time with me page on there. Just yeah, and I think we will share these slides with the attendants, right? The slides that I shared, I will share.
Perfect.
There's a slide in the slide deck with the QR code. If you just scan that, you will get to our page, and you can just immediately book some time with me one-on-one.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, look, thank you again so much for your time
Thank you
today.
for your time. Yeah.
Not at all. If anyone would like to be in touch with Matcha, please stay connected with us on LinkedIn, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our newsletter for all the latest updates. The link will be in the description below. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you for episode 4 next time.